For those of you that were watching but not listening, we were doing a little bit of a stand-up comedy routine. It's just really not. I was really just telling stories about my hilarious life. Today is all about strobes, but specifically startup strobes, because whenever I started to show strobes on any form of education or online, people would always say to me, "Oh, I bet you she can't do that with cheap strobes," or "I'd like to see her try," or "Can you do this with cheap strobes?" And obviously, my entry point for strobes was the Pro Photo Kit at around $6,000. So all of a sudden, I was using these strobes, and everyone was like, okay, we need the startup version, and we need to know how to use it. So today's videos are about the startup kit. So the Elinchrom startup kit is a two light stand, two modifier, two carriers. In fact, this here is the startup kit, and it's currently on our store for $749. And so I shot with this kit, okay? And then you're going to see the shoot. So I'm going to show you the highlights, the best parts of the shoot. Then I introduced this deep dish, okay? The deep dish, which you'll see in the second setup. And then I introduced the light motive, 190 centimeters. So I'm 160 centimeters, and that's 190 centimeters, so it's a lot taller than me. Obviously, the bigger the modifier, the softer the light. So you're going to see all of these in action. So after I show you the shoot, then what we're going to do is we're going to do a live demo, just to demo distance, height, angles, and everything, so you can really see truly that space that you need and where you place everything, because it's so important. So what I've done is I've changed the light and the modifier, and really all I did was every time I shifted the modifier, you'll hear me say it, as Felix taught me, a modifier is like a spoon. And when you hold a spoon like this under a tap of water, if your modifier is small and shallow, then obviously you will watch the way the water hits the spoon and then goes outwards. Okay, and the shallower a modifier, obviously the more spray of light, the same way it would hit the spoon. A deeper modifier causes a more concentrated, stronger light, and then the way you diffuse it makes all the difference, and then the way you feather and position it makes all the difference. But I really firmly believe you should not be afraid of strobes anymore, because I was the last person to adopt strobes into my world, and now I love them and I use them every single day, and I think they're incredible. So I shopped around and I found the best, cheapest starter kit I could. You're going to see all of these in action right about now. Then we're going to come back and we'll do a live demo, and you can ask me anything about setting up angles, tilt, size, and distance, because we'll do it side on so that you can see it. And then I'm going to take the images that I did from the shoot and I'm going to finish them for you, because I feel like, just like natural light, I have a very strong idea of what the finished product is going to look like based on how I lit it. And also, if you light it too harsh and broad, how do you soften the shadows? If you don't light it contrasty enough, how do you bring in the contrast? There are so many variables, and I really want you to just play and how easy it really is. See how easy it really, really is. So the startup kit comes with two modifiers, that one there, which is a little square octabox, a little square softbox, sorry, and then this one here, which is about the size of a beauty dish. Okay, so you'll see in the video, I didn't actually use this modifier at all. In fact, I went straight away with Felix's signature light, and I turned the second light towards the V-flat, or you can use the ceiling, or you can use your wall, if you have a white wall, to bounce the fill light. Okay, so I just used this setup exactly like that. So if this is your very first entry into strobes, you're not going to be disappointed, not for $749. Absolutely not. Really impressed with these lights. Obviously, this is the ultimate modifier. It's like a natural light, maybe a ranch slider or glass sliding door. It's so big and it's so soft and it's so beautiful. But, you know, these big modifiers, they're also expensive, so you just need to price it. So when you get the store link, when you go to our store, everything's on there. Some of it's bundled in packages and some of it's individual, but you'll decide what you think you really need to start working towards. bundle it out, work out how much you need, because for the startup price, this is one of the best that I could find. And I mean, it's Elinchrome. It's very good quality. So let's have a look at the shoot, and you can ask me any questions you want about the shoot, and we'll come back. This is only 14 minutes long, the highlights to all of the light setups. And if you want to draw out the setups to the lights, for some people, it's much easier, okay? I get asked a lot about constant light. The Stellas are on the same link. The Stella is the small constant light. I love both. I love the Kinos, I love the Stellas, I love the strobes. The point is, find what works best for you, what works best for your studio and your style, and work with what you have. And I think that's really important. Okay, so we're going to play you a little video, and we'll be back in 14 minutes. Today I'm going to replicate Felix Kuhn's signature light setup. So what I'm setting up here is D-Light 4 Elinchrome starter kit. It comes with 2 strobes and 2 modifiers. The first thing I want to do is try for 3 different looks by just changing her outfit and changing the background very, very subtly, but without shifting my lights at all. Let's take a little bit of a test. Okay, rolling your back a little touch more, chin around to me now. I've used the square small softbox on the front light. The back light I bounced and used for fill. Good girl, put some air in there, Brie. See, that's just so perfect. Okay, curling forward a little bit more. That's it, chin up just a touch off your shoulder though. You got it, good girl, stay there. Got it. And now I'm going to change the look. I just changed her dress, but I'm not going to change the light yet. Go. Beautiful. Oh, that was it. That was it. Absolutely beautiful. Perfect. Right, I'm going to swap out this little square for this deep octa and see the difference in the light. So as Felix talks about, one of the most important things that we need to think about with our modifiers is, imagine your modifier is pouring water onto a spoon. So this is a really good example. If you have a flat teaspoon, the water's going to spray outwards. If you have a deeper modifier, the water would be more concentrated and full, but then we're going to diffuse it. So it'd be really great to see the difference between these two. All right, so Kaylee, just turn this hand here and bend that elbow ever so slightly. Push your chin towards me. Beautiful, don't move. Okay, without adjusting that light, let's see what we get. Ooh, beautiful. So a little bit softer, we're a little bit darker, and we've lost all of that hot spot, which I like. What I'm going to do is, instead of adjusting the light above her that's at 45, I'm actually going to drop this light here. So at the moment my backlight is on 4, and I'm going to take it all the way to 3, a full stop down, because this is now going to make this light more contrasty and more direct. You can put some air in there, Brie, if you want. See how everything just got super dark and super moody. And currently this light is sort of half on her and feathered off. I'm going to go the other way and feather it the opposite way and see if I can't bounce a little bit more onto the backdrop through the gap. Beautiful, Kaylee, don't move. Oh, I love that. So beautiful. Let me try and bring that back to the front ever so slightly. Chin down. Gorgeous. Oh, I love that. So moody and beautiful. All right, I kept the same pose because I wanted to show you all those variations of light, but now I'm going to come up to 3. So we're going to go in reverse, lighten up that fill again. Beautiful, good girl. I'm going to come up to 4. Beautiful, look at that, magnificent. So I like all of them for different reasons. But now what I want to do is take my original setup. So we have the starter kit plus the deep dish now. But I'm going to change the direction of the dominant light, which is the deep dish modifier. I'm going to put it on a boom arm on a C-stand over her. So I still have my general fill light, and I'm going to change the direction of my dominant light. And before I put it up, I'm just going to release this and just make sure it's flat down. And it's actually going to be a little bit back towards the backdrop. So we're going to keep a little bit of an angle. When it comes up and over, I want it to suspend over her head, and you can see the angle here, just slightly elevated to light up my backdrop a little bit. All right, so here, I love this. So my overhead is still a little bit strong, so we can dial that down a little wee bit. Oh yes, this is magnificent. So a suspended light like this definitely gives a more fashion style. Both strobes and C-stands are from the starter kit, from the Delight RX4 starter kit. Now we've added a deep dish modifier. As we add bigger modifiers, we get softer light. We've definitely got a nice big spray of light over her. To me, I love this look because it is very dramatic, suspending over slightly back towards there. I can put this one up a little bit more just to soften my shadows. I'm actually going to go up to 3 from 2, so I'll go a full stop and see if that is too much. I want just enough light to be coming through there, so I just want to have a look at the difference between them. And as you can see, it's softened up those shadows quite distinctly. So I'm going to take the deep dish to 1 light setup. So the first thing I want to do, I'm going to keep this modifier, and I'm going to try to either cut down this light or remove it to get a very direct, strong contrast beauty light with this modifier. Second thing I'm going to do is just switch out a little backdrop behind her, and what I'm going to make it a black V flat, like that, and then I'm actually going to walk this light away from her now to about 4 feet. Now I want this light on the back of my head because I want to have 1 light straight on the back of my shoulders pointing down towards her. So first of all, I'll drop it down. Then I'm going to release here and tilt it towards Kaylee like that. I would like the bottom of the mod to hit her right about here so I can lift it a little bit more. So we've got 1 strong light. And the whole point of this is it's coming down, it's just washing over her, it's fading down, and my background is going to be nice and dark. So I'm going to be right where she is, and I want it to touch right here. And you can see from the side view that it's tilted downwards. So I can see if I need to lift it up any higher. So if I just push back into the modifier ever so slightly, I am nice and close to her. Let's have a look what we're getting. I absolutely love that. Now this shot, I specifically love doing in black and white. So I'm going to change my picture style to monochrome. It's not going to change my raw file. My raw file will still be color, but this is where I want to get this shot here. Chin up just a touch. Perfect, Kelly. So this shot here, I'm going to change her outfit to black. I'm going to pull this light back to me, and it's going to be the only light hitting her. I know that you can see ambient light coming in the room, but that's not going to contribute to the shot. Now, I want this to be about 4 feet from her, and I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to angle it towards her, a little more like that. And then I'm going to come back up. So I don't want to be too high. I want the bottom of the modifier at the bottom of her chin. Now, I want to shoot this in monochrome. So I'm going to just leave the backdrop for now. I'm just going to put my picture style on monochrome. It will not alter my raw file, but it's going to give me a really good idea of the image that I'm getting. Shoulders towards me and see what we're getting. So that's the exact look that I want. I need a little bit more light to her face. So this light is currently on 2. I'm going to pull back a little bit more and turn it up 2 dots up. Yep. Let's try that. Chin down just a touch. Beautiful. I love that. Absolutely amazing. So we started off with the starter kit with our fill light and our small octabox. Then we brought in the deep dish Elinchrom, which is an add-on to the starter kit. And then we elevated our Elinchrom, okay? And then we dropped the Elinchrom forward and removed our fill light, which really was lighting up our background to get a more concentrated and intense light to the face. So now we're going to try the Big Daddy modifier. So the bigger the modifier, the softer the light. I can't wait to see how this shoots. So this is the Light Motive Indirect Elinchrom modifier. It's 190 centimeters wide. So look at this, nearly 6 feet, okay? Nice and huge. Now, what makes this modifier so incredible is it's indirect, meaning the light is mounted inside and it's firing towards the modifier, which diffuses the light and pushes it out. So it only has one diffusion on it because it's indirect, it's pointing inwards. So if you have a look at this, you'll see this beautiful big light source. Now, this here is Elinchrom's brand new light. Okay, so this is the Elinchrom ELB TTL. It is so small and so light and so portable, it can be put on a monopod and handheld. Obviously, it might be harder hand-holding a modifier this large, but if you put any of the smaller modifiers on this light, it's going to be very portable and really easy to take on location and shoot anywhere. So this light has a battery pack, okay? And that itself is also super light, lighter than my handbag. And this light itself on a monopod would be easily portable, obviously with a smaller modifier. But today I want to shoot on this massive modifier. So I'm going to put this light to the test. I'm actually going to set up this light right behind me, just a little bit taller than me, so it's firing around me and giving me a spread of light. I'm going to do a standing pose, maybe with a bit of dress throwing, and fill up my frame. Let's go and see what it looks like. I love this. All right, bring your right knee forward. So now we've got this super big modifier and it's just one light. We've got no reflectors, no natural light. Let's just play. It's right up against me. It's just washing over this whole background. Let's go. Beautiful, I love that. Oh, stay there, Kaylee, stay there, stay there. Eyes to me now. Turn this hand like that. Soften it, eyes to me, eyes to me. Everybody's perfect, chin up 1/2 inch. That's a girl, you got it, you got it, you got it. Ah, oh, that was incredible. Perfection, yes, let's look at that. This is a beautiful big modifier. Yay. Okay, so we shot, yes, Stephen, that was in the old studio. We shot that about a month ago. So basically, I'm going to walk you through all of these setups. So too many people are getting hung up on what type of light you have. Just look at the setup. It doesn't matter what you have. I want you to try it. Okay, now one of the greatest things about lights is as you get a bigger budget, you're going to get bigger modifiers, right? Because bigger modifiers are softer light. As you get a bigger budget, you're going to get better lights that dial down more. So the entry level, what you're up against for the entry level of learning strobes is you're up against too much light. Okay, because the cheaper strobes simply do, you'd think it would be the other way around, right? I have more expensive light, therefore they pump out more light. But actually, the more expensive the lighting gets in just about all of the styles of lighting means that you have more control over the light, which is bizarre. Also, the modifiers get bigger and more diffused. So your biggest lesson here with a startup strobe is diffusing and bouncing the light. Okay, and that's what Felix is all about. Felix is all about teaching you how to feather and bounce the light into your subject to soften that light. Now, I teach you the same thing with a window, right? I teach you how to put a scrim or IKEA curtains in front of it or a shower curtain and diffuse that light. I then teach you how to bend that light with V-flats and reflectors. Same thing with strobes. The more you feather, the more you bounce. And if you can, bounce into a V-flat. If you don't have a V-flat, bounce into the wall. Now, that's what Felix teaches. So this light here, I'm going to do a side-on version. So this light here was no modifier, okay? And it was bouncing into a white V-flat, and my model is here, right? My model is directly in front of me. So this light was about, let's walk it out, because realistically, it's about 8 feet, okay? And the whole point of this light in about 8 feet distance is if you have a very small space, this light would be hitting your wall, okay? And if you have a bigger space and you have a V-flat there, then you can put a V-flat there. So yes, you can put a speed light bouncing to your wall, and so you can practice with that. But the idea is the modifier controls how much light is spread out, but also how much diffusion is on there. And a lot of the more expensive, bigger modifiers have double diffusion, have diffusion inside. And then you look at that Big Daddy, which is that big one on the wall behind us, which we did at the end, that's indirect, meaning the light is facing inwards, not straight through. So when the light is direct through a modifier, then obviously the only thing softening this light is that diffusion on the front, okay, which is really, really important. If you are looking at our starter kit, this is the starter kit, exactly what I started with. So it is a 2-strobe setup with 2 light stands with 2 small modifiers, although I didn't use the smallest modifier. And yes, with a trigger comes with it for $749. So that's what a double light setup for $749 looked like, okay? And a lot of people ask, now the boom arm is not part of the kit. Okay, the boom arm is so we can do the suspended shots. So let's talk about that, because it really is pretty much 90% of what I love is that boom arm. So I'll get G to help me bring this out because it's got a sandbag attached to it. So basically that boom arm is an extra piece that you buy, and it allows you to spread it out to bring the light up and over, but it also allows you to tilt up like that. And that's how the light was tilted, only that much. So basically I'm always trying to shoot on the back of my head. So if I was standing, G would have to bring this light down until it touches the back of my head. When it's up and over my client, that's what that boom arm is for, okay? It takes it up and over. Now, the higher the light, the more shadows underneath the eye socket. So I'm going to show you all of the images we took from that shoot, and I'm going to open them and retouch them and finish them exactly how I have in my mind when I change the light and the difference. Because as soon as you start bringing it up and over, you get these real moody lights, sort of, oh, it's high, but it's very gorgeous. Now, the teaching me about the fill light, when Felix taught me about that fill, I think really changed my world. Now bring it over, G. Let me give you some idea of exactly how much. So if it was here, and G, you can be my model. We'll take away the starter kit because you saw that. That was about 8 feet. That's exactly right. So if G's sitting down, you sit down and I'll position it. Okay. Now, wherever G is, I am, right? Because wherever his eyes are, my eyes are. So if I was going to photograph Jerson, I would sit on an apple box too, or my other option would be, right here, would be to squat. I did 100 squats yesterday, so I'm just like, oh, wait. Okay, so my option would be to squat here or sit on an apple box. Now, wherever I am, look at the tilt of this. I really want this just spreading out as one light source, washing down and hitting him right there. Now, G, like all men, in fact, if you look that way, G, the difference between the male face and the female face is they have a stronger brow and a deeper eye socket. Okay, so this is when we did the expressions video where side to side, when women put their chin forward and down and the eyes come up and they look sort of bigger and sexier, when he does it, he looks angry, right? Because his eyes are deep and his eye sockets are deep, and women have a higher ridge on the eyebrow. So elevating this light is going to make him look very strong, very broad lit, very quickly. It's still going to do the same to me, essentially, because I do have eye sockets. And so obviously I do lighten the eyes and all of this light on that suspended light. So don't take the shot and then go, ugh, the eyes look black. Okay, because it definitely, there is eye lightening in every single image. Absolutely, there is eye lightening. Okay, so questions about setups, because I have all the lights here and I can set up anything you want to see. So anybody in here, you need a microphone in order to speak. Does anybody want me to demo any of those setups? Tell me right now, microphone. Just put your hand up and somebody will give you one. All right, so this boom arm here has the ability to come out. I also have a bigger boom arm that you've probably seen on Instagram before. I've got the really big long boom arm and it has the winder which actually tilts it. And I actually picked that up. A friend bought it and was giving it away.
So I just want to understand the angle and the distance, this direction and this direction.
Okay, so for me, if you've got a 3 or 4 foot octa, then ultimately they say around 3 or 4 foot from your model client. But ultimately, I kind of stand right about where my 50mm lens is. So for me, a 50mm lens is about here, and I know this distance because this is about 5.5 feet. So it's the distance of my height, and I'm always in exactly the same place. So I make sure that this light is on the back of my head like that. And the lower I get, the more it comes down with me. So it comes down, and then depending on how much light I want on the backdrop, depends on how elevated it is towards the backdrop. So if I want more light on Jerson, I keep it quite tilted like it is now. So from side on, you can see it like this. But if Jerson comes away from the background, he's going to be lighter and his background's going to be darker. If he's right up against the background and I want to see the texture of the background, I simply tilt it up more so it's hitting the background. Now when it's elevated, so when it's in what I call Vanity Fair, you know how I call that Vanity Fair pose, basically what happens is, let me just bring it down first, I release this one. The first thing I do is put it up and over, and so it hangs down. Now there isn't a light in this modifier. This is just an example of this modifier. So first it has to be there, and then I release it so it has an arm length like that, so it's nice and flat. Okay, then I bring it up, and I want to put it over. Now obviously I'm not going to put a light stand right in front of his face. What I'm going to do is put it to the side. So I literally put it, stay there, G. You're my model today. So what I do is I put it here, the light stand here, and it hangs over him this way. Now, if I want texture in the background, I simply put it over here. So it's half feathering onto the background and half feathering onto Jerson. Remember the fill light, what stops the vampire look is the fill light in the background. And I never suspend a top light without a fill light. Okay, because if you suspend a top light, you're just going to get one Dracula light that does not work, okay? It just does not work. Okay, I believe she meant the light she was bouncing off the back wall. Sorry, ask that question again. Is it right that the 6-foot octa is the only light that is indirect, meaning the light faces the back of the modifier? Yes, the 6-foot octa is the indirect. The other ones are all pointing outwards. Any other questions in there? Ask here, because this is really, really easy and really so much fun. Wait till you try it. Also, if you had an option, this is the deep dish that I did use, if you had an option for a bigger modifier, put the biggest one above also, because the back one you can turn and bounce off the wall for the biggest spread of light. How do I position the fill light? Exactly as it was when we came back. It's basically about 8 feet from Jerson, pointing back this way into a V flat. Because what happens is the V flat is about 2 feet from this light. This is a big white light, okay? And then basically the double V flat becomes the spread of light. Okay, Wendy, you said, could I do this with constant lights? Yes, because it's the direction of the light. Okay, it's the direction of the light. Now, that works really well for my angle, but I want to show them from your angle. So come side on to me. Okay, so when G's sitting here, I would actually go a little bit higher because obviously he's a foot off here, this one, that's it. And because G's tall, he's 6'3". So basically I need a little bit of space. So when I was photographing this one, I want you to try 2 different things, okay? One of them was, first of all, I brought it out to about here and tilted it back to him so that the top light had a little bit of an angle like that. That gives you a beautiful result. Then if you go backwards towards, oh, by the way, if you tilt that forward on a black V flat, background goes black. Okay, if you go this way, like that, then you can see that the light is right over his head, which means it's feathering outwards like that. Some of it is hitting me in the front, which I don't capture, and some of it is hitting that background, and the difference is you really light up the background. Where are our big black and white images? Yeah, bring them out, because it's the best way to show you. Is the fill light on a transmitter as well? Yes, they are both firing simultaneously on the same trigger. How do you calculate the light spread from your modifier? The best way to do it, Brookie, is to put it up, fire it, and see what happens. Okay, honestly, without doubt. It's all right, G, because it's really just, let's see. So with this one here, you can see that I shot this on a black V flat. So these were a really interesting mixture of V flat. Caitlin also is a V flat because you can see that it's just, it's black, but it's not dense black, all right? Then I know I did it with this one. That's a V flat. Now, have a look at this. Look at the difference between Tiffany and Megan. It's a very subtle difference here. Megan's light is higher and stronger, okay? And she's pulled away from the background. Whereas Tiffany, you can see the gradient in the background. I brought the light lower. You can also see it's a softer, lower catch light. So in Megan's one, it was suspended about 1/2 foot above my head and tilted in exactly how I had it with Jerson, nice and high. So it gave a more concentrated look. And yes, she does look like more of a floating head because it's more contrasty, right? And then this has a softer appearance and it just is tilted down ever so slightly and the light is spreading out more and you can tell it by a catch light. Okay, regardless of which strobes you're using, average white balance, clear, I don't have a strobe setting. I struggle with skin tones being consistent. I do not use a gray card. So basically I'm on auto white balance and then I adjust the color of my image in my raw files when I process my images. How do I avoid losing the hair detail on the outer edge? Megan has detail all the way around up close. I can see perfect detail in all of the edge of her hair, but I wouldn't put a hair light on there because it's 2018. It's not 1985. So no hair light needed. I can see the edge of the hair on every single one of them. So I just don't see the need to do it. I feel like people still get stuck on those old rules. What does the overhead light actually do? Changes the direction of the light. So basically, I'm going to open all of the images we took and I'm going to show you the difference between how it photographed because it's very subtle, but when you see it side by side, you're like, whoa, that's not subtle at all. Would that setup work with older ladies? Yes. So Mike, here's the thing. If I had a gnarly old face, male or female, and I really wanted to celebrate that gnarly old face, I would elevate that light really nice and high, okay, and really elevate all of those shadows on their face. If I wanted to soften them, I would go more for this look. I would drop the light behind me a little bit more, and I would let the spray of light soften that face. If I really wanted to soften it down and make it look natural, I would go with the first light setup that I showed, where I have the fill light bouncing in, because the fill light lightens all the shadows. That's what the fill light does. And the best way for you to do it is set up your fill light at the back, take a photograph with just the fill light, turn your top light off. Okay, and even Felix's signature setup, the fill light is what is really bouncing behind you and around just to light up the room. And the image will look very flat and underexposed. Then the top light, wherever you place it, whether it's overhead or 45 feathering in, that's giving you the direction of the main light. That's what's giving you the harder shadows. That's what's giving you the beautiful broad light. So the fill light is just softening those shadows. The overhead light position, if you don't want light on the backdrop, the model is right underneath it. Not underneath it, but more like, G, if you take these away, more like how it was just now when G was sitting in the chair. So it would be lower and then tilted towards me, but still about 4 to 5 feet away. It's so much fun to play with. Please just play and you will absolutely love it. Okay, any other questions in there for setups? Otherwise, I want to open all of the images and show you what they look like, and then show you how different I edited them based on how they were lit. So I think as you develop your eye and also as you develop your style, one of the things that really, for me, was that my work has been natural lit for so many years, that my light style was that really flat, open beauty light to the face, right? Natural light, flat, open beauty light. So when I started to bring in strobes, the first thing I did was I had to make my strobes look like natural light. And it wasn't until Felix showed me his Felix signature light, which is that nice big fill to soften the shadows with a touch of direction, that I got that beautiful natural light look with strobes. But if you want to get away from that beautiful natural look and start doing something a little bit more fashion and a little bit sort of harder lit, a bit more broad lit, really great for guys too, then you can just start putting more light into your front light and then feathering that or bringing it more directly to your client to really create some direction, because it changes the way you edit, and I think it really makes a difference. Okay, questions. I have a very small space and I've been using a bounced on-camera speed light. I don't have space for the boom arm. My ceilings are 8 feet in the center and they slant. How high is the lowest I can use? So Nicole, one of the first things I would consider, and I've seen Felix do this, is to put this on a boom arm and direct this light directly to the ceiling with a small modifier on it, so it bounces up off the ceiling and comes down. And in fact, we've done a video of us bouncing that off the ceiling to see if we could create that fashion Vanity Fair light, suspended light with a bounce, and you can. So this one would go straight up to the ceiling as high as you can, bounces off and spreads light down. Okay, so that works on a smaller space. And Felix does say quite a lot, it really helps if you have a white ceiling, because, then you're bouncing light off a white ceiling. All right, how do you know which modifiers shoot light through or bounce off to the side? Well, you pretty much, it'll say that they're indirect or not. So it's pretty straightforward. Honestly, Mark, it didn't really matter to me whether it bounced in or bounced out. I just want to turn it on and turn it up and down. I've been playing around. Seriously, I was like, it really didn't matter to me. I wasn't like, oh, an indirect modifier. I was like, well, let's see how it shoots, and it shoots beautifully. So I really didn't get too, caught up in it. I've been playing around with the lights to the side, but pointing in front of the model so the feather catches them, adding a bounce to the opposite side. But I'm finding a dark shadow on the inside of one eye on the bounce. Okay, so how I fixed that one eye was I didn't put my light to the side. I put it at 45 or closer to my body, and it brought the light around a little wee bit more, and that made a really big difference. Okay, ceiling bounce. Yeah, ceiling bounce is going to work. Do you use a reflector on the lap? I don't actually use a reflector. So on one of the videos, when I first shot Megan, I put a very small bounce reflector on an apple box to try and catch a little bit of light, but it made such a small difference. However, here's a really good tip. When you get an old V-flat, you want to just cut the bottom piece off, just use that as a little lap bounce. And I keep all my old V-flats when they get all battered, and I cut them down and use them as little halves or 1/3. On the modifier directly above, is the model toe the back of it or straight underneath? You just said, but I missed it. Well, depending on how much light you want on your background. If you move this to the back of them, it gets more light on the background. If you move it to the front of them, it gets less light on the background. So entirely up to the look you want. Please make a demo on G to see how to shoot old glamour Hollywood style photographs. Okay, so actually, here's the irony. The suspended light is as close as you can get to that real Hollywood light anyway. But the Hollywood lights that we did with Felix originally were really hot, constant lights. And that's what gave them that really high contrast look. And keeping them up quite high definitely gave that look. Okay, any other questions about the setup? Otherwise, I'll bring my Photoshop in and start retouching because I'm really excited about this. Microphone down here.
So if you're starting with the starter kit and you were talking about the difficulty is controlling the light, could you put like another diffuser on the front of it?
Absolutely, you can. So I talk about this a lot, okay? And the thing is it looks very shabby, but it works. You could literally get a piece of white fabric, like a scrim fabric. So either a shower curtain, $20 from Amazon or $7 from Amazon, or polyester chiffon, and you can literally clamp it onto the front of your modifier to diffuse it more if you can't bounce it. We do what we have to do. And it's no different than when you shoot natural light and you actually hang more curtains or so I always have those big sheets of polyester chiffon in my camera bag rolled up. You can pull them out, and I have hair clamps. I will clamp them to a window if I have to. You can do the same thing to the front of the modifier. But just remember this light stand and modifier is so light, like I can't even tell you like how light it is. Like somebody hits that and this is gonna happen, okay? So you put a diffuser or fabric clipped onto the front and it's gonna get top heavy. Okay, so then you're going to have a water bag or a sand bag, basically, to anchor it, because as soon as you put a little diffusion on the front, that's what's going to happen. So you can try both. It doesn't look that great, but it really works, yeah. Secondly, I can put a V-flat there, turn the light up to full power and bounce it, but I'm going to get a bigger, softer light, because everybody thinks when you pull a modifier away from people, the light gets softer, but it's the opposite. It actually gets harder and more concentrated. And then the closer you get, the softer it gets. So if you're bringing your light in really, really close and it's still too hot and you can't turn it down anymore, that's really your option. Okay. So the other option, of course, is an ND filter or a neutral density, 8-stop neutral density filter. So the first light that I bought, I didn't know anything about lights. I just went and got the softbox. I put it right here. I took a photo of my client. I looked at the back and went, well, that's disgusting. And then I never used it again, okay? And then somebody said, well, you know, when you're shooting video outside and you want to shoot nice and open on your lens, but you can't because the sun's too bright, and you just get a neutral density filter, 8-stop filter. And I was like, smart. So I did that. And then one night I was sitting there and I thought, well, surely if that cuts the amount of light going into my lens, I can use that cheap strobe and just dial it down. So one of my favorite shoots is Tessa in the red dress. Okay, and I used the big Elinchrom starter kit, and I use a bigger modifier, but I actually use a neutral density filter to diffuse the amount of light going into my lens. And the neutral density filter I have is a Nexus, Nexus, I think it is. It cost me about $89, and it dials down 8 full stops. So if your light is too bright, that's another way to cut down the light. And that's where I went until I got bigger and better lights, because this is not about selling you on one kit. It's about saying you can do this with this startup kit. And you should be able to do this with any startup kit, you know, because that's the most important part. All right, any other questions there? With a boom arms, a C-stand is recommended. I don't know whether that was a question or not. Okay, no other questions. Let's bring it on in, and then I'll show you the difference, which really looks amazing to me. I've got my little Photoshop table here. Thanks, Gills. Awesome. All right, and feel free to ask me any questions you want. You guys here, and you guys out there. All right, first of all, let me just open these and show you everything that I picked, and we'll go through it together. You can see in this image here that this is the suspended overhead light, because you can see the direction of the light that's hitting her is hot at the forehead and working its way down. So as I bend the light around and start to light up, more light starts hitting her face. Okay, so at the top here, it's right above her, and as I slowly angled it out towards, the light comes towards me, but the modifier bends slowly up towards her. This is the difference. See how dark she is under the brow? Okay, see how the light's just starting to lighten up on her lid now? And then it comes around, so more light is hitting her in the front, which makes the background a little bit darker, right? Okay, and it's very, very important. Terry, what were those large photos printed on? Photographic luster paper, Canon, and I printed them myself on the Canon Pro 4000 and had them mounted at the local print place by my studio for $38 per image, and they're mounted on foam core. All right, so as you start to elevate that light, it's going to look higher and hotter over there, and then it's going to come to here. However, this look, that look has a very distinctive look for me. It's really fashion film noir. It's really good for maternity, really good for babies, really good for sort of moody film noir images, fitness, nude. I love that suspended light, and I can't stop using it. This is the one strong light, and this really is to replicate the one light that I taught at Portrait Masters, the one that sits on the back of my head, and it's really just that really dominant light. It's not about that backdrop at all. And you can see when they're all in a grid how much, you know, it's subtle, but there is a big difference between all of them. So I started out here with Felix's signature light. So this is the starter kit only. This is the second modifier with no modifier on, the second light with no modifier. The first modifier is at 45 degrees. It is the square softbox just to the left of me, to the right of her. And you can see it's just washing over. Now, the one thing that I noticed, and there's no point lying about this, have a look. There's hot spots, right, on her face. They are hot spots, so let's retouch them. Because what's important is that you see what this is going to do. Now, when I go to the bigger modifier, there's no hot spots on her face. Okay, on the bigger modifier, which is the big deep dish, this is the light on her face. And you can see that it's considerably softer than that one smaller modifier. So as the modifier gets bigger and better, you're going to get a better quality of light. However, I did not think, and I don't think you'll feel the same, that these hotspots here were unmanageable, right? And there are ways to work around hotspots, so let's look at it. This is still the starter kit, okay, and I threw her here, and then I bought a black V-flat around her, and I did that, and you can still see there's a little hotspot on her cheeks, on her forehead, on all of these images. And as I got to the bigger modifiers, the hotspots lessened, So if you start shooting it and you're like, ugh, hot spots, you're really just looking for more diffusion or more bounce. Okay, and I didn't diffuse or bounce. I just shot with them to see what I was going to get. Now, this is a really unique look. And this is when I've got the overhead light brighter than the fill light. Okay, so it starts to look a little bit, well, alien. It's kind of got a really unique look to it, but I really like it. And it's quite hard on the face, and as you can see, it's really hot. In this image, it's really hot in the face. So I have to make sure that I retouch that in a way that doesn't look too harsh. And you can see there's little hot spots on her face, but it's a hard light, but it's a different edit for me. So we'll edit them and see what they look like. Any questions? Keep them rolling in. This one here is all I'm going to do. Okay, I'm simply going to take down her shadow under her eyes and the shadow under her chin and the little shadows around here. So when you do get this suspended light, that's all I'm going to move, and that's it. And this is the really big modifier. So you can see that there's a big even spread of light and only one modifier, no ambient light, no fill. So see how big and soft that massive 190 centimeter box is. And that's the light we love because that's the closest to natural light for me. Out of all those, which ones do you want me to play with first? Speak to me.
How do you fix the hot spot?
Oh yes, let's fix that hot spot. So I have a really different way of fixing hot spots than most people because you know me, I'm a hack. So everything I do is the hack version. For me, I'm going to go here, here, and here because these are these three, and I'm pretty sure they're pretty hot. So let's open these and have a look. Hotspots, can you adjust hotspots? Where are the light? Okay, so when I open my images in RAW, the first thing I do is bring my highlights down. The bar for highlights, I bring the highlights all the way to the left. Okay, and almost all the way to the left. I just bring the highlights right down because I want the most neutral image to work on. And then when I come in here, here's the thing about hotspots. If it's too hot, there's no information in there. Okay, and you can clearly see that there is information in here. So what you have to be really careful is if this is completely white, it has not captured enough information in the skin. And then your hotspots are really, really hot. So I minimize them first as much as I could. The light is still directly hitting her. Had I taken a little bit more time to play with diffusion or bouncing that light or even feathering it a little bit more to the edges or turning it into a white V-flat and bouncing this light, I may have eliminated those hotspots altogether. But this is showing you the light at its most basic directly towards her on a 45-degree angle. All I really want to do is soften this edge here, okay? That edge there is where it goes from skin to hotspot. And I have always just used my clone stamp at about 10% to soften that edge. So I'm bringing in the edge of this area up into my hotspot there. I'm just minimizing that hotspot and I'm just tapping in with my clone stamp. And as you can see, there is enough information in this hotspot for it just to blend in really nicely, nice and easy. If it's too hot, then unfortunately there's not enough information. You've got to really try and diffuse that light or bounce that light. So this was that light straight on, and to me it looked really good. This hotspot here, because remember, the face is spherical, so it goes around. Your head is a ball or an oval, and I want there to be a light spot here. Because if I remove this light spot, I'm going to flatten the face. Also, I want the cheeks to have shape. So I go from the brightest part of the cheeks, which is always right here. This is where our highlight lands because this is the bit that's most forward towards the camera. I clone from there up into that little eye shape under there without removing that lower eyelid. All right, and then I'm up into there. And then if my nose has a hot spot, I retouch up and down the nose like that. and I'm really just softening it there. Now this shot here, I literally had this little flick of hair come in. So I go to my patch tool, shortcut J, and I literally patched this out like that and went straight down and just patched it out. And then I just cleaned that up with Clone. So just make it nice and easy. Clean it up from your hotspots out. So yeah, deal with your hotspots first. Try and deal with them in the raw window, and try, don't you hate that when there's something on your screen and you clone it? Yes, I know, yesterday I had a long black hair and I hit it 3 times with the healing tool. I was like, wait, my eyes are like, I'm getting it. And then I keep hitting it, and then I laughed to myself because it was literally a cookie hair on my screen. And I was like, I tried 3 times to get that. This is a big question that I get asked all the time, and that's when you see the V-flat in the background. Also, not so much with strobes, but definitely with natural light when you do shoot into the V-wall. So if you go to your patching tool, okay, so if you patch generally in your background, you can pretty much patch that out pretty fast. I do find when there's too light, so a lot of, oh, that was my bad. A lot of people tell me this, yes, but what happens when the V-flat is picking up light on one side and not on the other? All you have to do is go to the Photoshop videos and look up gradient tool on the background, because then I create a gradient tool, because the gradient is really amazing. Let me just go back to here so that I can show you. That one, that one, that one, that one. Nope. Here, where did I patch out that background? Okay, so I'll just show you this. So basically what I do is I go B for brush. Okay, so the shortcut is B for brush tool. I'm going to make my sampler a bit bigger so you can see it. And I go Alt tap. You can go Alt click. And that samples that color there onto that swatch. I then swap the swatch, and then I go Alt tap. And now I have 2 different variant gradients of the black background. And then I lasso the area that I'm going to gradient, okay? And then I go to my gradient tool, shortcut is G, and I slide the gradient from left to right, or right to left, and that gives me a perfect gradient of both background colors, and it makes the gradient instantly blend into the background. So if you have a lighter side and a darker side, the easiest way to do that is lasso gradient tool. And also you can do that with the backlight image. If you see the bottom of the window and it's dark, you can do the gradient tool from white to gray, and it puts a perfect gradient in the background, and it works perfectly. Okay, any other questions out there? Keep asking me, because you've got me here. All right, so this one here, let's retouch this image. This is the first one I took. Okay, and you can see there's a little hot spot. You can see there's a hot spot here, all right, and there's a hot spot here. So I'm going to just touch that, clone stamp. I'm at 100% opacity, 10% flow. I'm just going to tap in here to the edges, make sure that that hot spot is minimized. I'm going to go from the highlight, the cheek highlight up. I'm going to go up and down the nose highlights, nice and easy like that. I'm going to come up into that little dark piece under her eye, down onto there. And yes, we always hit the shadows around the mouth and the shadows around the nose. So this is the big one for me. If you have a smaller, wider nose, minimizing the shadow around the nose makes my nose look narrower. And I'm always trying to look narrower in the nose instead of wider in the nose. So I hit that shadow on my photographs, and it always, always, always works. Okay, from here, there. Now, we literally, where we got that one, let's try this one. I really want to show you these because I feel like they're just so beautiful. There and there. Okay, so this really changed the way I shifted this top light. And have a look at this. I'm going to bring up the face so you can really see subtly that beautiful shift in image. So I love that. And then here, and remember I was turning up the fill light at the back, and then I was slowly bringing the light forward. I feel like that's the sweet spot, right? Because when I see that, I still think it's a little dark around the eyes. Now when I get to here, That's really high light, and you can see it's making her look a little different. And somebody did say, oh, it's a little bit of an alien look, because it is very, very different, because the light is very suspended and very high. Now, have a look at this. This is so cool. As I slowly turn the light up to the backdrop, you can see it goes from, it gets more light and then less light. So when the light is higher, it's suspended there. And then as I go up, I just bring the light above her more towards the backdrop to light up that background. Then if I want to lighten the shadows, I start adding more fill light. Okay, and then I get to here. And then once I start adding fill light, that's Felix's signature light. And that, to me, looks like daylight. Okay? And that looks like daylight. If you struggle with the clone stamp, to me, it's really quite simple. But you've got to remember, I've been using the clone stamp since its inception. So I use the clone stamp. I mean, I do it so intuitively. What a lot of people don't know is the control that I have over my Wacom tablet. So I feel like this is where a lot of people get confused with the clone stamp. How hard I press makes a difference, a big difference. So when I want just a light touch at 10%, I light touch at 10%. But when I want something firm, you know, I can hold it down. Now, the best way to work it out is 100% opacity and 10% flow. Flow is the amount of time it takes for the paint to appear. So at 10%, I would have to hold that down in order to get more. So basically, it's just slowly applying it at 10%. Okay, but so let's look at it like this. I'm going to click on her eyeball. Okay, and I'm at 10%. So I'm going to click on her eyeball, and then I'm going to hold down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, at 10 seconds, I'm going to get a 100% flow. Do you understand? Or if the easiest way for me to work that or show you that, so I think a lot of people don't understand how much control I have over that. Now, for starters, then the longer I hold that down, the more I'm going to get. Now, at 100%, so 100% flow, I don't have to wait. I'm just going to click, and then I'm going to get 100% flow straight away. So I'm working on 100% opacity, and I'm controlling the flow that I get because I want to go slow, okay? And that's the best way to work it out. So for me, a lot of people work at 10% opacity and 100% flow, and I've never been able to do it. I just do it like this. And also, if I need it a little bit stronger, I just use the shortcut keys at the top, and I just literally pick that up, and then I'm there. Okay, so any more questions? Otherwise, I want you to play, and I want you to go for it. So for me, one of the biggest things that I want you to play with is just the angle of that top light. I cannot wait. As soon as you've played with it, put your images into the members only group. The difference between this shot here and this shot here is I turned the light up one more full stop. Okay, so I just didn't feel like there was enough light, so I turned the light up, but I didn't change the position. Okay, this is, for all intents and purposes, Felix's signature light. There is a fill light bouncing into the V flat at the back. You can watch that video and see it again and again. And there is a light at 45 degrees. Now the light is at 45 degrees to my left facing her. So the angle she's on means it's right on her. Exactly the same light there, exactly the same. That is my brown Oliphant. Okay, if I wanted more light on the backdrop, I would have just brought the front light up a little higher and tilted it up to the background. And to make it darker, I drop it down. That's a V flat, okay, with the deep dish modifier. So this is the deep dish modifier here, and as you'll see on our store, not part of the starter kit, but an add-on. Would I tell you to buy the deep dish or the bigger modifier? Well, okay, here's the thing. that it's what you can afford, but if you're budgeting for it, the starter kit and this one would be like the ultimate, right? Because then you have small and humongous. And then you can use the smaller Portalite as a beauty dish because it's the size of a beauty dish. It's just a, smaller version, but it's about the same size as a metal beauty dish. All right, and then you get this beautiful soft light here, and you can clearly see that there's not a lot of hot spots in there. That was straight on deep dish straight on my style on the back of my head. And obviously that has a really beautiful chin shadow. Now she has nothing on her skin, so it is quite a harsh shot, meaning it's very like there in your face. But if she was wearing more clothes, and obviously looks good, and then you can see the softness of that massive modifier. It's really, really good. So I guess it's the sort of light that you like. But what I want you to do is just start working with what you've got. And if you're looking at a starter kit, that was a starter kit, and that's under $1,000 to get a lighting set up. It's one of the hardest things to do. But there are so many people in our group that, have so many different ideas on what the best light is, and everybody shares their lighting setup. So if you ever see somebody with light that you like, just ask them what they're using. Background kit and curtains work the same, do you think? The background kit, be more specific, Gina. Is there a batch edit video out yet? Batch edit. Gina, do you mean when I edit in RAW and I set pretty much anything that you see me culling or post-processing, you can see my RAW window edit because I don't use Lightroom, I only use RAW. Okay, questions, guys, before we go? Otherwise, I want to see you guys play, and I can't wait to see you play. Especially, I want to see your startup kits, because when people are hacking light, it's just magical, and it's such a neat learning curve, and you're going to have so much fun. Is there an easy, fast way to match skin color of the face versus the body? Probably dodge and burn is really the easiest way. I always find myself, I can create a layer mask, I can isolate the face, and often the face is darker than the body. And yet it's closer to the light, so it gets more light. But it's also where we carry all of our sun damage, and also foundation oxidizes. So most people are wearing the wrong colored foundation. It's so bizarre. And the face sees more sun than the rest of the body does, and so it tends to pick up more. Also, when you do suspend lights, the face is often flat to the camera or straight to the camera, but if the arms are forward, then they're at an angle, so they're going to capture more light. So the best way would be to layer mask and dodge and burn, and use that. And if you want to know how to do that, Pratik's lesson was free on archives on the live page. Just go back about 4 weeks until you find Pratik, and he teaches you how to do full area dodge and burn, which makes a big difference. Okay, so Craig doing edit with a mouse. He tests opacity at 30 and flow at 100, opposite of the Wacom. No questions there. Okay, guys, if there's no more questions about lights, go forth and make your light amazing. Go and play. Ultimately, remember this. This is the one thing. If this is the head of my client, okay, I want this light to be somewhere like this. Okay, that's it. It's just that little quarter light. You're going to try everything. You're going to start here on the back of your head, and you're going to go up, and you're going to go up. As you go up, that's why the second light is needed. Because as you go up, it's more directional, more Dracula lit, and this bottom light is going to give you fill light. Okay, so if this bottom light is facing outwards and spreading light out, it's going to soften all those harsh shadows. So here's the rule of thumb, because everybody has a different light source and everybody has a different setting. And a lot of people are like, what were your lights set on? Well, you don't know what our lights are set on, because if you have a different brand than me, then me telling you my light was on 8 is not going to help you. So look at it like this. When I start elevating this light, I'm going to have this light higher than my fill light. Okay? Now, if this gets too hot and too harsh, I'll just slowly start turning this down. And if my image doesn't have enough light, I turn my fill up. The problem being is when you get that fill light too bright, it starts softening the whole image, and it just looks like natural light, which is beautiful. if that's not the look you want, then you've got to have your upper light as your dominant light. So I want you to try. Sometimes I set up both my lights, and my top light will be at 7 and my bottom light will be at 5, and it's perfect. Other times, different people, different outfit, different backdrop, I'll set it up and my lights will both be at 7.5 and it will look extraordinary. And then other times I'll have my top light on 5.6 and my bottom light at 6.5 and it looks perfect. So you just have to play. Turn that one up, turn this one down, turn that one up, turn this one down. But the best thing Felix taught me was, when in doubt, bounce, diffuse, but try both lights singly. Don't change the setting on your camera. Turn off the backlight and just photograph the top light to see what it's doing. Then turn off the top light and photograph the backlight just to see what it's doing. And you'll be so blown away by that exercise. You really start to learn what your fill does and what your direction does. Don't be afraid of taking this direction light. Okay, so if you're my subject, don't be afraid of taking it there, okay, and then feathering it into her, feathering it away from her onto the background, or putting it into a V flat and turning it up so it's spreading a big spray of light out that way. Don't be afraid to try all three, okay, because it's too easy just to get stuck on putting lights towards people and they look horrid. Okay, don't be afraid of feathering off to the edge. What is feathering? Okay, watching where the end of the modifier is and how it feathers out. And as Felix taught me, most of us start lighting. We turn our lights here. We're about low, okay, and flat and straight on to our clients. And at the end of the day, he says, where's the sun? Because the sun is never down here. The sun is high and it bounces off and it's the most beautiful light. So try and replicate the sun and then bounce light up into all the areas you need it. And that's where your fill light is really important, to lessen all of your shadows. Okay, because sometimes you can put a really harsh light on someone and it's like too much, but then you add that fill and it just softens all the dark areas, and then you'll get your perfect scenario. Now, once you've worked out your scenario, you just practice, practice, practice. You don't have to move your lights, or when you do, you know exactly where they go, because you just get so good at it, and then it's no different than your window. And so you think you're afraid of it, but you're not. You just haven't played with it enough yet. Okay, enough yet, and it's really, really important. Any last questions before we go? What neutral density filter do I use? It's an 8-stop Nexus. Nexus, 8-stop Nexus neutral density filter. And if you watch the red dress shoot with Tessa, you'll see me using it at different variables. Absolutely amazing. I am also like, you know, that monkey on Zoolander. Whenever I hold it up to the light and turn it and it goes, it's just magic to me. It still makes me go like I love it. I love it. For very small spaces. I would like to see a starter kit set up for very small spaces. Priscilla, we shot that in a big space, but I swear to you, nothing was more than 10 feet away, nothing, at the furthest. So you just have to try in a smaller space, and if you own Felix's lighting workshop, which you can get at portraitmasters.com or thelightingseries.com, he does a 7.5-foot ceiling lighting setup. So it's just the same, you just got to get it in there. Okay, the right here is why I fall in love with the world-class education. Oh, thank you, Wendy. I know that you're going to make beautiful things with that. What is your view on beauty dishes? You know, Rodney, to me, a beauty dish is very harsh, direct light. And unless you're shooting beauty models, they're not for clients. I have never seen, okay, so when I look at Lindsay shooting with that beautiful modeling light, the beautiful beauty dish, Lindsay shoots models. I don't shoot models. So when I first tried it, I have one. I bought one and I used it once. My clients just aren't models. And even when you see really beautiful girls and you're like, she could be a model, she's not. Okay, there's a really big difference between a model and not a model. And you know, when you photograph a really gorgeous girl and you put it on your Instagram and everyone says she could be a model, okay, that girl's now going to go into Ford Model Agency and go, everybody on Instagram told me I could be a model, and Ford's going to look at her and go, you're no model. So, you know, it's one of those things. So I find that it's just too harsh and too honest for an everyday face. And there's really no point. Yeah. But, you know, I don't want to stop you from using it. A lot of people, another way to get Anna asked before, another way to get that Hollywood light is to use use a beauty dish with a honeycomb in it, because it's going to give you a really strong, directional, small, round light. Is the kit going to be for sale under the shop? Yes, it's just now on our shop, because every time you guys say we need a starter kit, I go and source something, find it, and that's what I found, so it's going to stay there now. Yes, between Sue, Felix, and Pratik, you can't go wrong. Absolutely. I want Pratik to retouch everything of mine, Steve. Here's the thing. Now that I've had Felix retouch my work, I pretty much never want to retouch anything ever again. But now I'm just like, I just need Pratik to come and work here. I have the light set up with a larger modifier. Now I know why my lighting is too bright. Absolutely. Kate, do you have this startup kit, Kate? Because I'd love to know more about it. Okay, more questions. Anything in here? Anybody want to ask me? You need a microphone? Just put up your hand. Somebody will give you a mic.
If you had to call one of these more Vanity Fair style, what would the light setup be?
The one that I call Vanity Fair is the overhead. Yeah, because it wasn't until I started to do it that I was like, oh, this looks really Vanity Fair to me. Although the irony is, Vanity Fair, we're really referring to Annie Leibovitz. And Annie's lighting scenario is more like Felix's signature. Yeah, so it's definitely more soft, lit strobe. Yeah, and she shoots with strobe inside, outside. Is 47 inches a good size for an octabox? The bigger the better. Okay, are we always looking to have a catch light? Yes. Now, Beth, when you do the suspended light, and I don't mean the overhead, because when you get the overhead, there's going to be a fill. Let me just hold this. When you do this one, so, okay, right now, if I shoot with this on the back of my head and you're my client right here, then I'm going to get a really good catch light in her eye, and it might have a little black dot at the bottom where my head is, right? As I bring the modifier up and over to the halfway point, still a single modifier, it's going to look more like Megan's shot, which is more contrasty, bigger shadow under the chin, and it's going to have a smaller catch light, because as I come up and over, the little half catch light does exactly what it does here. It just gets smaller and smaller like that. Okay, so the catch light looks exactly half this. So as I bring this down, the bigger the modifier, the bigger the catch light. Okay, because obviously that's the light that's going to be in her pupil. So yeah, you are always looking for a catch light. And recently I published on my Facebook page a really beautiful portrait, and somebody wrote, yeah, even if you can't see the catch lights, but I can see catch lights. So I don't know why people get so hung up on catch lights. It's kind of like, you know, we learned these rules in the 90s and then people can't let go of them. My images always have a catch light to some degree, but I'm not hell-bent on it. Like, I just don't get too upset about it. It's really, really bizarre. It's one of those things that people can't let go of, kind of like back button focus. Yeah. All right, any more questions? Otherwise, we'll leave you to practicing, and please just practice this. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. You're going to get so many amazing looks, and I love it. Watch your hot spots, diffuse your light, do anything you can. And remember, if you have lights that get hot, if you have cheaper lights that get very hot with a lot of hack lights, putting diffusers on them and leaving them on, it's going to start a fire. Okay, please turn them off and light responsibly.